Good morning and welcome to Introduction to Government Contracting, a webinar being hosted by the Empire APEX Accelerator. For those of you who are actually new to government contracting and are not currently a client, this should be hopefully some good information for you to help make that decision on that journey. If you already are a client, hopefully it's just review for you. We do have the chat available for questions with a monitor who will be reviewing them and letting us know what questions we have either throughout or at the end of the session. I will start off with my name is Lenora Leasure. I'm the program manager of the Empire APEX Accelerator. And as we move through the slides, we're going to talk a little bit about what exactly an APEX Accelerator is and what we do, as well as some of the basics of getting into government contracting. So we want to keep this session to an hour, so I'm going to go ahead and get moving on the slides. So thank you so much. I'm going to turn off my camera while I present, but I am still here. You'll hear my voice, and we'll get going. Thanks so much. Hopefully my slides will move forward for me. There we go. So our objectives today, of course, like I mentioned, we're going to talk about what APEX accelerators are, how we can help you in your journey of government contracting. We're going to go over just some of the basics of government contracting, not too deep a dive, but just enough to kind of give you a feel for things to expect along the way. We're going to talk a little bit about small business certifications, which I know right now and over the last year or so, there's been a lot of discussion about small business certifications, certain ones. We'll touch on that a little bit. We're going to talk about some of the basics of marketing for government. It's a little bit different than standard commercial type of marketing, so we want to make sure that we talk about those differences. And then we're going to, at the very end, just very quickly go over a couple of some of the particularly Department of Defense or Department of War, their hot topic areas. A couple of them are listed here. FOCI, Project Spectrum, mentor protege, those types of things. So without any further ado, let's get into this. So first, promised you, APEX Accelerators, what we are and what we do. Sorry if you had a dark screen and all of a sudden this got very bright, because mine did as well. But this is kind of a little fact information for the APEX Accelerators and our program. Some of you may have heard of the name before as Procurement Technical Assistance Centers, or PTACs. That's what we were originally called up until a few years ago. But we're actually a program that was authorized by Congress back in 1985. So we've been around and going strong for a very long time. The intent was at the time to get more small businesses in particular into the defense industrial base in particular, but as part of that, it also included all levels of government contracting and all federal type of contracting. So the federal government is one of the largest purchasers of goods and services across the world. So every year we're over $500 billion in contracts. So it's a good place to get in if it's the right fit for you and your company. So what do they buy? Just about everything: construction and building materials, motor vehicles, services like legal, even HR and some of those types of services, furniture, office supplies, sometimes even livestock, pen, paper, you name it, and the government probably buys it in some form or fashion. So our role is to help businesses be able to do that process. We're kind of bridging that gap between the business that wants to sell to the government and isn't sure how, and the government that wants to do business with that business but doesn't, they can't support them and get them up and running and able to do so. So that is why we're here. That's what we do. And we're going to go a little bit deeper into the weeds as some of the things that we actually do. So we're administered. Excuse me, it's very dry in here. So if you hear me stop and take a drink, my apologies. So we are administered by the Office of Small Business Programs. So we used to be under the Defense Logistics Agency, and that changed a couple of years ago is when we moved to OSBP and changed our name to APEX Accelerators. There's about 90 programs across the country and in the territories that the United States covers. Right now, we have programs in 49 states plus DC, Puerto Rico, Guam, and the Virgin Islands. All of us offer free services. So one-on-one counseling, training, opportunities, market research, those types of things are free. Some programs across the country do charge for certain things, certain events, those types of things that they have a cost related to. We'll go a little bit deeper into that in a minute. So part of being with Department of Defense or Department of War, we're what they call advancing the mission. So how do we do that? You'll see on the list on your screen, which I don't want to read it to you, but basically these are the types of things that are to help the warfighter and help the United States. First and foremost, being a Department of Defense, I'm going to stick with DoD just because that's I've been doing this since 2008. So to me, it's DoD. They since they fund us, that's their first and foremost view is supporting the war fighters. So how can we do that? And you'll see anything from, just being able to provide those goods and services, keeping the supply chain strong and intact. You saw a lot of that during COVID times where, we didn't know where to get some of those materials that they needed. And one of the things that we'll talk about as a hot topic at the tail end, the DPA Title III, that you saw that invoked, and having some of the, I think it was some of the car manufacturers that they had them switch over to doing some of the things that the hospitals were needing. So those are all pieces and parts. And the biggest thing right now is innovation in key industries. There's certain things that they're looking to, they're calling it critical technologies. We need to be on top of our game because everyone else, our enemies out there in the rest of the world, they are on top of theirs. So that's a big piece of it for us. So again, free services, not just military, DoD type of stuff, but all federal agencies, state, local, so right down to your city or county, whatever. We help with all of that. I do want to caveat that with saying, and I'll go a little bit deeper into detail on the next slide, but basically your location of your business determines who you're going to work with for an APEX Accelerator. So even if they aren't, say you're located in New York State and you want to do some business for Florida, we're going to help you through that process rather than you contacting a Florida APEX Accelerator. So just want to make sure I'm clear on that. But a lot of what we do is workshops and trainings like we're doing right now. We also work with and host and participate in government to business matchmakers. Our big piece of what we do and help, of course, is that one-on-one counseling and assistance. And that's where you meet with a counselor and they walk you through what you need to walk through. There is a little bit of a process in the first part where we find out, okay, where are you at? Where do you need to go? And then from there, it's very customized to what you need and how you need it. So a lot of times when counseling, I'll tell them in the first meeting, I'm here for what you need. If you need me to hold your hand the whole way, I will hold your hand the whole way. If you just need me to give you information and let you go take care of it, and then you'll come back when you're ready for the next piece of information, that's what I'll do there too. So it's very specific to you, what you need, how you need to work. There's no set, like you must do this, you must do that type of thing. So I find that doing it personally, for me, doing it that way, you get a lot better follow-up and follow-through because I'm not forcing you to do what I want you to do. You're doing what you need to do. So I talked a minute ago about service areas. So our program, the Empire APEX Accelerator, serves 41 counties in New York State. If you're looking at the map there on the screen, you will see in dark blue the 41 counties that we cover. So everything from out west in Chautauqua and Cattaraugus County, downstate to Orange County, and up up in North Country, God's country, Clinton, and over to Watertown, Fort Drum, all of that. So we cover quite a large service area. I will, at the very last slide that we'll have, we'll show you the team, and we'll talk about, typically for events really is the areas that they cover, but otherwise you can end up working with any of them. So I like to make sure that you know the team. All right. So the Empire APEX Accelerator services, and just a key in there, you'll notice there's no S there. So when it's an individual program like ours, it's APEX Accelerator. And then when you're talking about it on the federal level, it's APEX Accelerators with the S at the end. So as a group, we're accelerators. Individually, we're an accelerator. So hopefully that makes sense. We are actually targeted, what we do is help with those targeted marketing plans, so we can talk about regulations, any tech information, documents, standards, specs, whatever, and help you through that process of what do you need, is it available, how can you get to it, and walking you through those. So we also, like I said, talk about those webinars like you're attending today. We have other topics that we cover next month. Our counselor will be going over New York State certification. So we'll have a session on that. So if you're interested in learning about the New York State certifications, please go ahead and get signed up for that session. We can help with finding opportunities. There's a lot of different methods and tools. We actually have a bid match service that currently we offer for free for all of our clients. And basically, just a quick idea what that is you work with your counselor, you make up your profile. That can be keywords, it can be like the various types of codes, etc. And then we put it into our system. And then every day it just automatically goes out, sees what's out there. And if there's anything that matches your profile, you'll get sent an email, a maximum of 1 email a day that lists all the matches from that day. And then it's really nice from there. You're able to go and get a little bit more information on the solicitation that is out there. We can help you go through from there. So if there's problems accessing the actual solicitation to, okay, I'm interested in this, what do I have to do? We can review through that solicitation with you, all of those pieces and parts. So that's part of the bid preparation. We will not, there's a few things we can't do. So we can't offer you legal advice. We are not financial advisors. We don't do anything with looking for funding or financing, any of that type of thing. And we don't write your proposals or anything for you. We will help you with that. We will help make sure you're dotting your I's and crossing your T's and supplying everything they ask for. We can help suggest when we say, okay, this is something that you need to get some legal advice on. We do know a handful of attorneys across the country that specialize in government contracting. So we might be able to help get you to them. We won't ever say use this person or use that person. It's always your choice. And same thing with financial related stuff. So, and then hopefully when you win the award, we're going to be able to help you if there's anything afterward, post award, we call it, as part of your performance and all of that we can help you with. So basically A to Z, nuts to bolts, whatever you need help with in government contracting, that's what we are here to do, and that's what we will do. All right, I'm going to take a quick drink. How are we doing on questions, Omar? Is there any questions in there yet?
Nope, so far no questions.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, so now we're going to get into what you really are probably hoping to hear me talk about today. So, of course, there's going to be some things in here that maybe with the fluctuation of the way government contracting has been over the last couple of years that are a little different or a little changed. So we always say work with your counselor on whatever's going on currently. So we basically, we do our best to stay on top of things to be able to correctly help you. So why sell? There's a lot of reasons to sell to the government. I already mentioned they're the largest purchaser in the world. Typically, they're going to be reliable and a continuous source of business. Some may argue that right now, but they pay their bills. There's law that states, if you successfully complete the award, they need to pay you. There's public law, so there's a lot of different rules or terms and conditions in regards to government contracting. So you're on a kind of like a level playing field because everybody has to abide by those rules. There can't be like the backdoor deals and those types of things that can sometimes happen in the commercial world. There's also opportunities and not always, but sometimes there's ways to do some flexible contracting arrangements if necessary. And usually a good performer is going to get rewarded by getting additional jobs. You're going to start to build that your past history and all of those things that are going to be able to help you. And there is some opportunity depending on what you sell or what your service is for international military customers. So there's a lot of opportunities there. Now, the next couple of slides here is from the current version of the Federal Acquisition Regulations, or FAR. Those are some of those terms and conditions and rules that the government purchases on. I will note that there's currently going on right now the revolutionary FAR overhaul. So these things could change slightly. Hopefully, once all of that gets buttoned up and it's moving forward with that, we'll be able to offer some sort of webinar that basically lets everybody know the changes, etc., those types of things. We do have scheduled for us and ourselves, and I'm going to go ahead while I'm continuing to talk to move on to the next part of that slide. I'm not going to read that to you, but we do have some trainings coming up for our counselors across the country on this. In fact, our conference this summer will have a 4-hour training session on the changes to the FAR in regards to this revolutionary FAR overhaul, or RFO. So with that, I don't want to spend a ton of time on there, but there are just certain things in these couple of slides. Make sure when we do send out the slides, which that reminds me, it'd probably be a good time for me right now to I'm going to copy in, because this is a question that gets asked a lot if we're going to provide the slides. So I'm going to put some stuff in the chat that includes the fact that, yes, we will be sharing these slides. So you will have a chance to review through those clause things about, what do you have to do to be a seller to the government? Those requirements that you must fit. Okay, whoops, I thought I got it to go forward here. There we go. Next slide here is getting started. Okay, so you're sitting here, maybe you haven't done anything yet, you're contemplating, do I want this direction for my business? Well, what are my thoughts and plans? So a lot of times the first steps in getting started are, first, let's see, is the government really a potential buyer for you? And not just they may buy what you sell, but do they buy enough of it that you are wanting to get into that competitive pool for selling to the government? So you really need to know what you do, what you sell, your service, whatever it is. You need to be very clear on that and what your goal is in selling to the government. So sometimes we'll have folks come to us and be like, yeah, I want to sell to the government. What do they buy? We can't really answer that question. You need to know what you're willing to sell. It's more difficult if you don't already have something in mind. Even if right now you sell a bunch of different things, maybe focus on just a few of them that you want to check into. That sometimes that focus will actually help you. So we can help you with that part as far as market research. Once you know what it is, we can help and go see how much has been bought by, New York State or the federal government, or, an agency within the federal government in that area in the last year or two. We have resources. Actually, they're public resources, so you can look to, and that's on the next piece of it. There is USA Spending is a good resource for past purchasing of the federal government. SAM.gov, actually everything, there used to be a separate website called the Federal Data Procurement System, FDPS, and actually it is being sunsetted very soon, and everything will now be available on sam.gov. It's becoming the one-stop shop for all things. So you'll be able to do research there. That's also where current procurements, the federal government is looking to purchase $25,000 or more. They have to post it on sam.gov. GSA will only mention GSA. That's where you get like a blanket award. It's not really an award like any guarantee of sales, but basically you set up a book price on something, and then any agency, they can come to there and buy directly from there. You don't have to go through the solicitation process again. It's done and ready, and you're just basically selling, kind of like Amazon. There's state and local bid boards. New York State, we just did a couple of weeks ago, we did a session on the New York State Contract Reporter and using it. So there's a lot of different places to be looking. So once you get that market research done, then you can determine, where is the best place for me to start this process? Where am I, bang for your buck type of thing? Where am I going to find the most opportunities, the highest likely of being successful, etc. And then once you determine that, okay, how do I get into that market? If it's federal, you need to be registered as a entity in sam.gov and get what they call your cage code. And I'm sorry if I use a lot of acronyms. I do try to state what those acronyms stand for. SAM is actually System for Award Management, and it's sam.gov. You always want to watch for that .gov. And cage code is Commercial and Government Entity Code. So there's tons and tons of acronyms. I always go to acronym.com or acronymfinder.com when I'm having trouble figuring out what a particular acronym means. There's also the SBA. Once you're registered in SAM, and you've gone through the full process, gotten what they call your UEI, which is Unique Entity Identifier, and that replaced the DUNS number for anyone's that's old school. And then you go and complete the other portion of the registration and get your cage code. From there, as long as you haven't opted out of public visibility, you will have a profile set up for you in SBA's small business search, which is where federal government will go and do market research to see if they can do a small business set aside. Prime contractors will go there to look for subcontractors that can fit their needs, those types of things. So you really want to be in that small business search. And you do have the opportunity to enhance that, what's included in that. It'll grab certain information from your registration in SAM, but there's other areas that you can add to and make it almost like an online resume for your business. That's what I always kind of look at it as, to me. So, and you can get opportunities that way. It does happen. So you also get a lot of people like trying to, get information or get you to buy their services. So there is some bad with the good, I guess you could say. And then also, if you're looking at state and local, what requirements are there? New York State, you got to get a vendor ID and get registered in certain places, as well as other states, and even like some of the bigger cities. New York City is a bear amongst itself. I know like Buffalo, Erie County have certain rules and requirements. So we'll walk through that with you based on what is the best market for you. And one more piece of getting started. So once you've identified those opportunities, to identify opportunities, sorry. But once you know what you're doing, like I said, we already talked about bid match. As a client, that is a free service. It's free to be our client, free for one-on-one. You just have to have your business headquartered in our service area. And if you're not in our service area, we can get you to the correct APEX Accelerator. But look for bid match opportunities. There's some agencies will have vendor lists that you can get on that basically makes you an approved vendor. Prime contractors will do that too. Attend workshops to see what's out there. Review acquisition forecast. Another thing too is that when looking at the workshops and those types of things, watch for RFIs, requests for information, sources sought, I know a lot of like, particularly in construction, they have like proposal sessions where you can go and learn about it. Um, and I always say take all of those opportunities when you're in person to meet the other businesses in the room, not just the agencies that you're looking at going to, because sometimes you might be able to build some relationships there that can foster business. So, each event like that is what you make of it. So the more you put into it, the more you're going to get out. And I always like the 80-20 rule. So building relationships, 80% of what they have is going to go to the 20% of the people they know. There's a lot of different ways that 80-20 comes into play. But definitely, you're going to need to put into some work and do some relationship building just as much as regular contracting, and keeping in mind that, there's sets of rules that they have to follow on that process. Okay, I am going to now take a drink and move us into the small business certifications. Again, keep in mind that, some of these might be in flux right now. I'm sure if you've listened to the news at all, you've probably heard some of this. So this information is the standard when things aren't in flux. And again, I will point out as there's a lot of links on these upcoming slides. So any of these, like where it says visit the WOSB and EDWOSB website, just keep in mind that those are links. When you get the PDF, you should be able to just click on them, and it should take you to the website. If you have any problems with that, certainly reach out to us. We can get you the direct links on it. Just if you do use Google or something like that, some sort of browser search, just make sure it's a .gov site. Check the legitimacy of it. Just I don't want to know what more to say on that, because you can get yourself into something you don't want to really be in. Um, so woman-owned business, obviously you'll hear on state levels, a lot of times you hear like MWBE, which is minority and woman-owned business. When you hear woman-owned business on the federal side, you'll hear it often called WASB. And then for economically disadvantaged is EDWASB. So those are two specific, actually certificate types of certifications. So you actually need to apply to become a woman-owned or economically disadvantaged woman-owned business through the SBA. It's only for certain NAICS codes. So the certification isn't required for the NAICS codes outside that program. It just means that NAICS codes that fall on, and NAICS code stands for North American Industry Classification System, before I get too far into that. So that's on the federal level. That's how they code what you do. So the program basically allows for set-asides in those specific codes, not in anything else. So if you don't do business in those areas, there's really not a good reason at this time for you to do those certifications. But if you need to do that at some point in the future, we can certainly help you with it. So, and then once you get your certification, it's good for 3 years. So you need to basically renew that every 3 years, but each year you do need to do your attestation, which just basically says, yes, nothing has changed with my business. There's no new ownership or that type of thing. A lot of information involved in that. And we can help walk you through reviewing if you believe that you should be able to get certified, and then help you through the certification process itself. And that's true for all of these certifications. Next up is HubZone, which stands for Historically Underutilized Business Zones. The website is there. There is now, I believe they've moved everything over to their new website. Anybody that's old school and applied for HubZone in the past remembers the old DOS application that was still being used up a couple of years ago even. I believe they finally have freshened it and made it a little bit easier. HubZone is basically, there's certain areas when they do the census, there's some magical nobody knows what the equation is that they determine. Sometimes it's just by a map area. Sometimes it's a full county. But those hub zones basically allow a business to have set asides, and there's also it's called a 10% price evaluation preference for hub zone set aside contracts. If you are a hub zone, there's several rules around it. The business itself has to be in a hub zone, so like the business headquarters, what have you. And then at least 35% of the employees must also live in a hub zone. Doesn't have to be the exact same hub zone. A lot of times you'll see this being taken advantage of when a whole county is a hub zone, because the business has a lot better chance that their employees are all also in a hub zone. But not to say that that's the only ones that really are successful at that. But every 10 years, because of the census, that does change of what is deemed a hub zone and what isn't. So it's a process of double checking all of those things to see if you're eligible. And that is, again, something we can help with. And I happened to glance over just in time to catch a chat come in asking about the vet. So for veteran-owned and service-disabled veteran-owned business, yes, everything has moved over certification. For a while, both SBA did some certification and the VA did certification. Now everything is through the SBA, and you can learn more about that at their website. You apply through the SBA certification website. They call it the Vet Cert program. It's one that you get recertified every 3 years. But again, they have certain rules and regulations. Typically, these all involve, at least the ones that are based on people. Hub zone is based on location. But like the owner is 51% or more have to be owned and controlled by the certification. So veteran owned, woman owned, what have you. If you have any questions on that, again, that's something we can help you through. And for any of our veterans on the call today, I want to take a second and thank you for your service. We appreciate it. Finally, the last program that we're going to talk about for certifications is the 8A. Often it gets lumped into certifications, but it's really a business development program. It's a 9-year program. Currently, this is the one that has a lot of news-worthy stories on it. In the past, there was certain groups that were automatically considered that they were socially and economically disadvantaged. They are no longer viewing that as a guarantee for that, and that you need to actually include explanation of why or what has happened in your life that you are socially and economically disadvantaged. So there's a lot of things going on. More recently, they found that a program or a company that was 8A went through the program and got beyond the program, that they're still being treated as 8A. So there's a lot of things going on. So this one's kind of, I don't even know if they're accepting applications right now. So this one is a check in with us on it. But basically, like I said, 9-year program. The first half of the program, you work with a mentor, getting set up as far as learning the ropes of government contracting. The last half of it is starting to do sales with the intent that at 9 years, you're ready to rock and roll and you don't need that set aside anymore. It's actually a unique set aside in that it has the sole source contract. So that means they don't necessarily have to go and look for competition that is also 8A. So there's some benefit there. And there's also some other pieces of it. You get additional training and those types of things that make it a really good program. So hoping this one stays on the books. If you think you might be eligible for it, just make sure you talk to your counselor, your assigned counselor, and, just learn a little bit more about it and see where we're at the current time. Okay, with that, we're going to switch gears a little bit. Again, this is an hour webinar. We got a lot of topics to cover, so we're gonna kind of fly through. It looks like we got just over 20 minutes left, and I do want to leave a little bit of time for Q&A. So if you notice that I'm going a little faster, that could be why. But some of these things are, once you get talking to your assigned counselor, you'll be able to really walk through these a little better. So first and foremost, we always tell folks to have 3 marketing presentations ready at any time. The very most important piece of that is your elevator pitch. Basically, think of it as you hop on an elevator and there's somebody there that you want to tell them about your company. You need to be short, to the point, and just be able to say what it is that you do in a way that is not so much for you per se, but your audience. Think about your audience and what they want, what their problems are, and be able to say that 30 to 60-second description, couple of lines. The other thing is always have that 1-page capability sheet. You'll see and hear a lot about capability sheets. These are different than line cards and different things like that. They're very specific as to the type of information you need on them. You can have them look really any way you want, but basically you want to make sure that you include certain information, and those are all there. Of course, company name, your point of contact, your small business categories, your cage code, NAICS codes if you're looking at federal. If you've done any contracting already or past performance, that information. If you've had significant subcontracts, that might be helpful too. And then, of course, if you've gone through the effort of getting a GSA contract or getting on schedule with GSA is another way you might hear that. You want to make sure you include that. And then the final one is just your full capability presentation. If someone calls you in and they want you to tell them what you do, you want to make sure that you have a baseline ready that you can edit that for any given audience that might want to know about you and your company. I lost my mouse. My apologies. We always touch on email marketing tips. This one's always tricky. I mean, trying to get a hold of buyers in general can be tricky anymore. They're not necessarily answering their phone or returning calls. Hopefully they're at least reviewing their email, and with certain ways of making sure it doesn't look like it's just a straight on marketing pitch, or it's not, something that might be spam or have a virus in it. Those types of things, they can help at least get eyes on for a second. And hopefully, with your being careful with your frequency, that they'll get to know who you are that way. A lot of times, like if you do a company newsletter, those types of things, even if it's quarterly, it's still getting information out there to them. But we always say, of course, be brief. You don't want to send them a book. They're not going to read it. Don't use a lot of attachments or graphics or those types of things, because often going through the filters that they have, all of that will get stripped anyway. So be very careful of your email signature block when you do that. If your whole email signature block is a picture or something, it could get stripped. So you want to make sure they know who it came from. Always include the subject line and content, not just an attachment. Otherwise, it will not even make it to them. And remember, keep in mind that audience. How can them working with you be benefited? Like what can you do to help them? That's really, they want you to solve their problems. I always, when I see the standout from the crowd thing, and this is both email marketing and matchmaker attendance, those types of things, that it's, you're now, don't do all this, don't have graphics, but how do you stand out? So that's always a work in progress of how to do that. And you'll see there a list of attachment types that DoD currently doesn't allow. There's probably more that come and go, and that's probably true of more federal stuff too. So just be aware. Again, we can help you through some of this marketing stuff, so don't get too nervous about it. couple of different things that these couple next slides we'll go through relatively quickly. Of course, knowing your competitors is going to help you on how can you solve their current customers' problems that they become your customer. So by knowing the competitors, who they are, their strengths, their weaknesses, you can review their brochures and websites, and their it used to be called dynamic small business search. Now it's just small business search. So take that D out of there. So review all that, and get to know who they are as well. You know how they say know the enemies type of thing, but your competitors aren't your enemy. um, and then make sure you're targeting the right customer. So make sure you've done all that research. There used to be a presenter that did a lot of presentations for us, Apex Accelerators, PTAX. And she always said, when you go to meet with a buyer, have 3 current opportunities ready and available to talk to about them. And I always remembered that because, one, it shows that you've done some research on them. What they're currently buying. You've done your research, and it shows them that. And then her explanation for that is, if you bring up the first one, they'd be like, oh, well, that's already something. They give you some sort of excuse. Then you bring up the second one, they give you another type of excuse. It's a little hard for them on the third one to have another excuse ready to go. So that's I think a good rule of thumb when it's possible. I know it's not always possible, but again, all of that is knowing who could be your potential customer, what agencies, what activities, what they do, what their needs are. Review their websites. A lot of the federal agencies nowadays have their own website. It's not just a generic one for federal government. Now you get to the state and local, that gets a little more iffy, but there's ways to do some research. Know your limits. Do not ever overstate what you can do. That's the quickest way to get yourself on the do not buy from list. So, and then of course, knowing regulations, procedures, or whatever of any potential customer is always a good thing. The next few slides that we're going to do, let's see. I'm just sorry. I have my chat open. I shouldn't do that because then it makes me draw to it. We'll get to the chat at the end. So I'm going to go over these next few slides very, very quickly. So mentor protege, both SBA and DOD have mentor protege programs. That's basically where a small business works with another business, whether it be a large business or just another small business that's been through the process and is very skilled. They are similar and different at the same time. You can review through the points on them when you get the slide decks, but they can be very helpful, building those relationships. With either one, I always just say, and I'm going to go ahead and move on to the DoD one for you. The biggest thing I want to say is that it's up to the small business to find and select and work with the mentor. So it's not like there's a big list of mentors sitting out there and the SBA or DoD assigns them to you. And in doing your research, be very careful, because this is usually someone that you're going to be connected with in the government contracting world for a little while. And so you want to make sure that there's not a problem or issue. And I say that under experience with another client that actually got themselves connected with someone that got debarred from doing business with the government. So just be cautious, be careful. Again, we can help walk you through the process, but ultimately it's your decision as a business of what you do. So we can help you as much as possible on gaining information and go from there. Something kind of new to us anyway is this foreign ownership, control, and influence. There's a lot of factors in relating to, is there something outside of the U.S. That controls phones, what have you, businesses. A lot of times, this is more for the mid to large size businesses that are dealing with this, but just we put this slide in here just to make you aware of it if you know of any foreign connection to your company, and then we can talk through details if necessary on that. So I don't want to spend a lot of time, just wanted to get it in front of you. Cybersecurity in Project Spectrum. Cybersecurity, as you know, this Cybersecurity Maturity Model Certification, CMMC, that's in effect now. There's certain rules and regulations regarding that, regarding your security in certain contracts. Be prepared for at least some form of that to go full federal. To basically, it's with what they call UEI. So it's not really classified information, but it's not information that we want everybody out there to have. So, if you're running into those types of things, we actually have one of our staff that's his area of expertise, that we can have you talk to him. And then Project Spectrum was actually created at least 5 years ago, probably longer than that now, probably closer to 10. They are, it's DOD has an award out for someone to handle training, helping you through the process of getting to where you're able to have an auditor come in for reviewing you. There's a community, they have cyber advisors, there's a free readiness assessment. So if there's anything that you're doing with DoD in particular, or anything when you're seeing CUI, cybersecurity requirements, reach out to us. We'll have you get connected with our subject matter expert, our in-house one, and then you'll likely, if you're a small business, you'll probably also work with Project Spectrum on that and helping you with that process and learning more about it and understanding it. Another one that's kind of in the air right now, government-led innovation programs. Often you'll hear Small Business Innovation Research, SBIR, or Small Business Technology Transfer, SITR. So SBIR, SITR, those are the most widely known programs, and currently they did not get reauthorized. I'm hearing within the next 7 to 10 days that hopefully that bill will get signed by Congress and we'll get those back up and going. But with those particular programs, the federal government requires a certain percentage of certain agencies' budgets to go towards these programs, which are sort of grant, not always a grant. Some of them are grants, some of them are actual contracts. But basically, the government is wanting to, remember we talked about those critical technology parts earlier today. So they're wanting to continue to research and develop and be ahead of our enemies. And these are some of the programs that are used to do that. So we really need to get that legislation back up and get this reauthorized so that we can continue to move forward on that. So if you're in a technical field doing research and development, there may be some opportunities for you there. Okay. Defense Production Act, Title III, DPA Title III. So this is when we're in a situation where we need something quickly, some sort of critical production or those types of things. This act can be used to help fund projects. So be aware of that. Again, this was used during COVID. I think that's the most recent one I'm aware of. IBAS, Industrial Base Analysis and Sustainment. This is a program that helps with industrial capabilities and helping getting things developed. This is also a new topic for us that we started looking at, but you can see the 6 priority areas, and this is where they're looking to not only build up the development of those areas themselves, but also the people who are doing those activities and who, so you always hear about machinists are hard to find anymore and that type of thing. So it's trying to help make sure that there's enough people to do the jobs that these areas require. And I think this is last area for our hot topics. You may have seen some information recently, especially if you're tooling around on any DoD or Department of War related website, or I think it's been, if you're on LinkedIn, you've probably seen it, but a new platform called Links. It just launched at the end of January, and we don't even know that much about it yet. We're still learning and trying to process through, but it's another profile. You can create a company profile, and eventually it's going to be used to help with matchmaking and a lot of different things like that. So more to come on Links, but it is out there. We're learning too. So if you have questions, we might not directly have the answers, but we can still help you and try to work towards finding those answers. So with all that, I'm going to go through. I think I got one more slide. Are you ready? So if you aren't currently already diving into this world, think about how long have you been in business? What resources do you have? What types of past performance do you have? It doesn't necessarily have to be government contracting, but if you got some, that's helpful. Registrations, making sure you have a strong foundation and your business is sustainable. Sorry, I'm going to cough really bad if I don't get a drink. What that means with sustainable business is you need to be reliable, responsive, and responsible. One of the hardest things as a counselor in our world is when a business comes to you and say, I'm about ready to close the doors. I need government contracting. And they've never even looked at government contracting before. And to me, I say that's the hardest piece because it's the hardest thing to tell them this is not going to save your business. It can take, on average, 18 to 24 months from the start of your process to your very first awarded contract. Then 30 to 60 days for payment after completion. So it's not a quick turnaround. It takes time. It takes, we just talked through some of the things you need to do before you even get started. So we would probably, with businesses like that, typically what we do is send them to an SPDC or something like that can maybe find some ways to help get them going, and tell them, if actually when you're doing great in business is the time to get started with us, because it takes that time to get going. So with that, I do want to allow few minutes. Looks like I will have about 5 minutes for questions and answers. I'm going to go ahead and go to this slide real quick and introduce my team. On the line with us today is Omar. He'll be helping with any questions that you've maybe put into the chat. Also on the team is Mercy. Oh, I'm sorry, Mercy. I got to update that slide with your new last name. I'm sorry, I didn't even realize that. Also, so it's Mercy McInnes and Manna Doyle and Finn Kreidler. So that rounds out our team, a great group of people, highly knowledgeable. And so if you're in our service area, you would be working with one of the four of them for the most part. I want to go to one more slide in case you are not currently a client. You would want to use the QR code on the right, the request assistance QR code, and that should take you directly to our eCenter sign-up page to become a client. And then if you just want to go check out our website, that is the QR code on the left. And Omar, any questions that we have? I'm going to...
Yes, we do. Thanks for the great presentation. So the first question is there a LinkedIn for government contracting? This is about the marketing slide.
Okay. So there are a ton of different LinkedIn pages that government agencies have. So I'm not real sure if you're looking for just like assistance in government contracting. I would say no. I mean, we have a LinkedIn page, and other Apex accelerators have LinkedIn pages. So if there's something more specific, you can just add in additional notes for that.
Yeah, and the next question is DoD doesn't accept .com attachments. Do .com emails addresses make it true?
Yes, yes. Yeah, it's more the links with inside them or attachments that they're very strict with, unless your domain name has been marked as potential spam somewhere along the way. So always be careful not sending out something that could be viewed as spam.
Gotcha. And can you help with contracts with NIH, or just do you just help with DoD?
We help with any federal agency, any state agency, any local agency. So any level of government contracting and related subcontract. So if Lockheed Martin is having you quote on something for a federal job, that's considered a subcontract, and we can help with that as well.
Gotcha. Those are all the questions we have so far.
Okay, well, we'll give it just another minute. I'm going to go ahead and repaste. Hopefully this, yay. There we go. So I repasted in there the email, website, the direct link to become a client. I also included the newsletter link. So if you want to sign up for our newsletter, even if you're out of area, you are welcome to our newsletter. You're welcome to attend any of our webinars that we have. We also post other area statewide type of events, the bigger type of events that we're aware of and know of in that newsletter. Matter of fact, I will be finalizing hopefully today to get our March newsletter ready for development, or not development, for sending it out. Okay, any more come in?
Nope, no more questions.
Excellent. Well, if you do happen to think of something after the fact, our email address is right there.